Good morning and welcome to this morning's devotional. I want to start off this morning by introducing you to my 10-month-old standard poodle, Piper. She is what we would call sometimes a good girl, except for the times where we basically leave out any of our personal items and she finds them and rips them to shreds. And the reason why I want to use her here this morning in this devotional is to talk a little bit about the fact that when God created everything that we know, including animals and humans, that he distinguished humans from animals. Piper is a good girl sometimes, but she is not a very good girl. And what I mean by that is the fact that when God created everything, he called it good, except for that moment that he created humans. He called it very good. And the reason for that is because we are made in the image of God. We are designed and we were made with the purpose to reflect his glory, his character, his love, his grace, all of those things. We were designed that way, that God, when he made us, that we would serve as a reflection in a mirror of who he is. The only problem is that sin entered the world and it cracked that mirror. And so we do not operate in the way that God wants and desires for us. And I love what J.I. Packer says. He says this, he says, the fall diminished God's image, not only in Adam and Eve, but in all their descendants. That is the whole human race. We retain the image structurally in the sense that our humanity is intact, but not functionally. For we are now slaves to sin and unable to use our powers to mirror God's holiness. So the idea is that when sin entered the world, it cracked that mirror of the reflection of God that you and I are supposed to have. But he goes on to talk a little bit more about the fact that Jesus came along and he is, as Hebrews 1 talks about, he is the exact representation of who God is, and that he lived a perfect life, and he died the death you and I deserve to die, and he was raised to life, defeating sin and the grave. And what the Bible teaches us is that for us who trust in him, that we receive his Spirit. And what's a beautiful part of this is that now through regeneration, now through the idea that we are, not only in the image of God, but now God's Spirit lives in us. Romans 8 talks about how his Spirit is to conform us into the image of his Son. And so when God's Spirit is in us, it sanctifies us to become less like our sinful selves and more into the righteousness and character of Christ. And that is how we get rebuilt and remade, and the cracks begin to fade away from that mirror to reflect the goodness of God again in this world. Not only in how we love one another, but also how we take care of the creation. And so I hope that was a helpful understanding of what it means for us to be human, in the sense that we are fallen and that we don't always reflect God's character and goodness. But now through the cross, death, and resurrection of Christ and the perfect life he lived, his Spirit dwells inside of those who trust and believe in him, and that he helps to make us more, not like ourselves, but more like Christ in the image of God. I hope that was a helpful understanding of what it means to be human.